Hey everybody, it's Model Trains 365, and it's a cold, rainy day in Eastern Virginia, so nothing better to do than come down to the basement and work on the layout. And since I'm down here, I figure I'd get some content for my new YouTube channel and give you a quick walk around the layout and answer some questions that I commonly see on my Instagram posts. So as we do a quick walk around here, I'm going to give some details about the layout and hopefully answer some questions that you may have from seeing my layout on Instagram. So the most common question I get is what size of room is the layout in? And it's not a perfect rectangle, so it's kind of hard to explain in a total number of dimensions, but I break it down into two rooms. This large area right here measures about 25 by 32, 32 being the wall with the bridges there in the Chicago yard. Looking over to my right, the other room measures about 25 by 16, 16 being the wall with the bridges in the back there. So that gives me about 1,200 square foot of layout space, and I haven't really tried to jam pack it in there, leaving good aisle widths and some free space in the middle just for a clean look and leave some room for expansion if I get bored in the future. But for now, this is enough to keep me busy and then some. The layout height is 51 inches in a majority of the areas, with an incline up to 56 inches for the St. Louis loop. I use NCE Power Pro DCC system, broken down into 5 power districts. And it has 2 reverse loops. There's over 290 feet of mainline track from loop to loop, with over 650 foot of track laid down to include all the staging and the yard areas at this point. I have about 33 tortoise turnouts, all powered, wired through DCC using NCE switch 8s. So those are just some quick details about the layout. Make sure to stay tuned and subscribe to my YouTube channel for some future videos, which will explain more about the layout as it progresses. Now we'll go over here and we'll grab this Union Pacific manifest and run it around the layout real quick. So this train I've just pulled out of the east staging, which is back here in this hidden area. It's got 8 tracks ranging from 11 feet long to 13.5 foot long. And each one of these tracks is powered individually, so I can switch it on and off that way to keep the sound on the locomotives off, as well as keep them unpowered whenever we don't need them. So I've already got the train pulled out enough from the staging, so we're going to go ahead and send it on its way. These 2 locomotives are from Scale Trains. They're Rivet Counter -9s, weathered by John Hill. Good looking group of locomotives. I've got the sound turned down just for this video, so it's not overwhelming. But this area they're going through right now is one of the 2 reverse loops. This is on the east end of the layout, and will resemble the area of, let's say, Indiana Harbor once it's finished, with a steel mill complex and some steel fabrication areas. The plan is to have some switching opportunities between these 2, as well as receiving incoming loads and sending stuff outbound. This area right here will be a scrapyard, which will process metals for the steel mill facility. Train's now crossing over the Calumet River, which is in Chicago, over the Baskill Bridge, which you may have seen in a previous reel on Instagram.
But it is operational and a really cool scene, especially once I get some water underneath there. I think it'll really be a highlight of the layout. On the west bank of the river is a gravel and sand industry, and it's backed up against the BRC, or Belt Railway Company of Chicago locomotive facility and their headquarters building. On my layout, the BRC will control operations on the east of the Chicago yard all the way over to the steel mill complex. As we pass through Southside, you'll see some warehouses and an intermodal facility with a food distributor and cold storage warehouse down here on this end. I'm going to pick up some speed here as we cross over the land bridge, which is a removable section, very lightweight, that allows me to get out the patio doors if I need to. Also got the test track out here in front, which is right next to the computer area where I'll do my YouTube editing as well as dispatch the railroad. So right now I'm in one of the two duck through areas which are inside the loops. This section here is heading westbound into the Chicago yard. As you can see on the locomotive's right, that's the yard entrance or the lead track. And on the left is a siding that comes from the intermodal facility. Now we're following the train past the Union Pacific Maintenance Away shops and the Union Pacific Locomotive Servicing Facility at the Chicago yard. Right now it's full of a lot of foreign power, just because I got a bunch of stuff all over the layout that shouldn't be where it's supposed to be. But that's how it goes. So this is Chicago yard. It's got two arrival and departure tracks, which are closest to the main, and then 7 classification tracks. In the back you see the Mississippi River Bridge crossing, which is part of the upper loop, and we'll be coming around to that shortly. On the west end of the yard is a Cargill corn syrup processing plant, which will help supply the food distributor by the intermodal facility. Here we're passing another train that's waiting to come into the yard on the westbound, or the west entrance arrival departure track, which also serves as a passing siding with a crossover on the other side of those reefers. There's also a team track that I've got coming off of there. Haven't really decided what I want to do with that yet, but got lots of options. Here we start the 1.5% climb up to the second level of the layout, which is a nice gradual climb and looks very prototypical. In the foreground here, I'm planning on doing a highway scene with just some rolling hills, typical of Midwestern scenery. Passing siding ends right before a river crossing, which opens up into the farm scene around this peninsula. In this area, the curve is about a 42-inch radius, which really makes the trains look good. And once the scenery is completed, hopefully I'm going to really be happy with this area and how it turned out. Here's another bridge crossing. The bridge which I stole from my diorama that I made a few years ago. And the train is making its way past the grain elevator complex, which I'm still pretty undecided on what I want to do here, since I'm not really a fan of these Walthers grain bins, just because they don't go together very well, as you can tell. They're kind of uneven on the sides, which maybe it's just my modeling abilities, but we'll figure something out. But anyways, the grain complex has an arrival departure track and then 2 storage tracks and 1 loading track. So process easily about a 30-car grain train, which is about the maximum length of a train that I'll plan to run on the layout anyways. Still going up the grade here on this back side. And as soon as we go around the turn here, we'll be staring at the Mississippi River crossing via the MacArthur Bridge. So as the train's doing its thing, we'll come back around and meet it on the other side. At this point, the train has entered into another reversing loop and is beginning to cross over from Illinois to Missouri over the MacArthur Bridge, or my version of it. Those are double track Walthers truss bridges paired up with Microengineering City Viaduct. Once it crosses the viaduct, it goes over a couple more Walther structures, which will be the future site of a St. Louis Amtrak station. And as you can see, the train is on the back upper section of the layout and beginning to go through the St. Louis Loop, where I have 2 tracks for staging along the main and an industry spur, which I plan on doing at Anheuser-Busch Brewery for some switching up here. And as the train loops around on itself, it'll start the journey back down the grade, back into Chicago Yard, and then continue on its way. So that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to show you guys today. So once again, I appreciate everyone checking out this video, and hopefully I can get some good content put out there on YouTube and make some future videos that you all will enjoy.